What do you do when your wife says she hates you and she doesn't know you heard it? That's the moment my life split in half. 1 6-second voicemail, one cold sentence. And instead of confronting her, I did something no one expected. I vanished. While the world panicked, police reports, HR alerts, neighbors whispering, I sat in a cheap motel off I-5 watching the fallout like it belonged to someone else. Because nothing exposes a lie faster than silence. And trust me, what came after stunned everyone, including me. If this hit you already, stay with me, hit subscribe, and let's walk through the truth together. It started with a little red icon on my phone, one new voicemail. I was driving home, dead tired from a long day crawling through crawl spaces, fixing other people's air, and I figured it was a spam call. I hit play without thinking, tossed the phone on the passenger seat. At first it was just noise, a chair scraping, a glass on a table, a muffled laugh that sounded vaguely like Lydia's. Then her voice came through, clear as a slap. I don't love him. I haven't for years. I honestly hate him. Click. 6 seconds. That was it. I pulled over so fast the car behind me laid on the horn. My hands were shaking. I replayed it. Once, twice, a third time. By the 6th, I was trying to bargain with the recording. Maybe she said hate this. Maybe she meant work, traffic, anything but me. But my gut knew better. By the 12th replay, my ears finally caught what my brain was dodging. I looked at the timestamp. Voicemail left at 6:12 p.m., 5 minutes before I walked through our front door. And there was only one him in that house. Me. I remember the smell before anything else. Pad thai and red curry filling up the car, the paper bag warm against my fingers. Lydia loved that place, said it tasted like a hug in a box. I'd driven across town to get it, because that's what you do when you think you're a good husband. You show up with her favorites. In my jacket pocket, the little velvet box I'd been chipping away at for months, a pair of earrings she once pointed at in a store window, then laughed off because they were too much. I remembered. I always remembered. I walked up to the house like a man walking into his own funeral. She opened the door on the second knock. Big smile, arms around my neck. There he is, my rock. My rock. 6 seconds earlier, in another room, in another world, I was the man she honestly hates. We ate on the couch, Netflix humming in the background. She talked about her day at the office, who said what in some meeting. I nodded in all the right places, handed her the earrings, watched her eyes shine. Outside, I was the steady husband. Inside, that sentence looped like a broken track. I honestly hate him. I honestly hate him. I honestly hate him. Two realities. One face. You don't come back from that. Not really. That night, the house felt smaller. Same walls, same couch, same TV humming in the background, but everything was tighter, like the air had been turned down a size. 3 times I opened my mouth to ask, "Who are you talking about?" 3 times my throat locked up. She sat cross-legged on the couch, picking at her noodles, laughing at some stupid show, leaning her head on my shoulder like nothing in the world was wrong. Her hand slid over my arm, familiar and fake at the same time. I watched her eyes. The smile was there, sure. But the eyes? The eyes were rehearsed. Once you know someone can say, "I honestly hate him," and then call you my rock 10 minutes later, you start to study them. The way she paused a half second before answering, the way her laugh came a little too loud, the way her fingers tightened on my shirt like she was holding onto a roll, not a man. I didn't confront her. I didn't scroll her phone. I didn't raise my voice. I just stepped back inside myself and watched. That night, I realized I wasn't in a marriage. I was in a performance. A couple nights later, the mask slipped again. Lydia was in the shower, music playing on her little Bluetooth speaker, steam pouring out from under the bathroom door. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter next to the sink while I was rinsing dishes. Screen lit up. New message. Marcus, you free tomorrow night? Same hotel. I told myself, don't do it. Don't be that guy. Don't snoop. I dried my hands. I walked away, made it all the way to the hallway, then turned back. I picked up the phone. My stomach knotted like I was the one cheating. One swipe and the whole truth was sitting there waiting. Months of texts, photos, jokes I'd never heard, arguments I didn't know they had already survived together, hotel bookings that lined up perfectly with every girls' night, every late shift, every book club excuse I'd swallowed without blinking. There it was in black and white, her real life. The one she'd been living while I was busy keeping the lights on and thinking we were a team. In that moment, it stopped being about one sentence on a voicemail. This wasn't just "she hates me." She'd built an entire second life, and I was the idiot extra in the background. I sat there in our living room with her phone in my hands, the blue light washing over my knuckles. The TV was on mute, some sitcom laugh track flashing silently in the corner. My heart was thudding, but my head was clear, too clear. I scrolled back through months of messages. Every girl's night lined up perfectly with a hotel reservation. Every time she said, "Don't wait up," Marcus was waiting instead. I started matching dates with my own life. That conference in Seattle, those double shifts in August, the night my truck broke down and I still dragged myself home late. She'd had company in my house. Most men picture yelling, throwing things, demanding answers. What ran through my mind was simpler, colder. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to explain. I'm damn sure not going to beg. A different thought slid in behind it, quiet but sharp. What if I just wasn't here anymore? Not dead, not in jail, just gone. No more bills paid by me. No more body for her to lean on while she whispers she hates me to someone else. She wanted a life without me. She was about to get it. Day one after the discovery, I got up like nothing had happened. Coffee, work boots, tool bag. I fixed strangers' air conditioning while my own life was overheating. When I came home, I cooked like I always did. Pork chops, mashed potatoes, green beans, comfort food. Lydia walked in, kissed my cheek, said, "Smells amazing," like the woman in those texts didn't exist. That's when I started really watching. I noticed this tiny tell I'd never seen before. Every time she lied, her hand drifted to her collarbone, 2 fingers pressing there like she needed to steady herself. "How was your day?" I asked. "Long," she said, fingers right on that spot. "Just meetings?" "Sure." Her phone was glued to her palm, but she never smiled when she looked at it. No joy, just tension, like she was juggling plates and waiting for one to shatter. At night, I lay in bed with my back to her, staring at the wall. I could feel her eyes on my shoulders, feel her wondering if something was off. She didn't know I knew. And I realized something strange lying there in the dark. I wasn't angry anymore. I was curious. The next few days taught me something I should have learned years ago. I'd been giving on autopilot. Money, time, rides to her work events, fixing things around the house, listening to her talk about office drama I wasn't part of. I poured and poured, and it never occurred to me I was running on empty. So I stopped. Not in some big dramatic way. I just pulled the plug a little. When she asked how my day was, I shrugged. Same. No details, no stories from job sites, no jokes about crazy customers. When she vented about deadlines and coworkers, I nodded but didn't jump in to fix, to reassure, to carry the weight for her. I let her words drop between us and stay there. She noticed. "You okay?" she asked one night, hand on my arm. "Yeah," I said, giving her a thin smile. "Just tired." Not a lie, just not the whole truth. Dinner got quieter. The TV was louder than both of us. The elephant in the room was practically sitting at the table, and neither of us named it. Somewhere between reheated leftovers and another fake goodnight kiss, I picked a number. Day 5. That would be it. On day 5, I'd be gone. 2 mornings later, instead of heading straight to my first job, I took a detour out of Portland, past the strip malls and gas stations, over the river, out toward the kind of industrial stretch nobody pays attention to unless they have to. Riverside self-storage sat there like a row of metal coffins. Lydia didn't know about this place. No reason she would. It was my just-in-case spot. A stupid survivalist fantasy I'd built years back when life felt heavy and I'd daydream about running away. The key was cold in my hand as I rolled up the door. Inside, a duffel bag, a cheap burner phone still in its plastic, a prepaid card, a backpack with some basic clothes and toiletries, a copy of my birth certificate, a little envelope of cash. Once upon a time, this was a weird backup plan for a disaster that never came. Turns out the disaster was my marriage. I checked everything, added a couple more shirts, an extra pair of work boots. I held the burner phone feeling how light it was. No history, no contacts, no expectations. When I walk out of this unit, I told myself, I'm not just a husband anymore. I'm a ghost. I pulled the door down behind me. The metal slammed shut on my old life. The morning I left, I still kissed her goodbye. She was at the counter, half-dressed for work, a minute of scrolling her phone with one hand, coffee in the other. I walked up, pressed my lips to her cheek, and said, "Love you." She smiled automatically. "Love you too." Didn't even look up. Funny thing how people can say the right words with an empty house behind their eyes. That evening, 5 p.m. came and went. Then 6. Then 7. Lydia was probably pacing, checking her phone, wondering why the human furniture hadn't walked back in on schedule. Meanwhile, I was at a small park by the river, sitting on a cold bench with my real phone in my hand. Every contact, every photo, every little piece of the life I'd built around her sat on that screen. I powered it down, logged out of every account. No more banking apps, no more GPS, no more location sharing. Left the phone on the bench like a shed skin. Then I walked to the station, bought a ticket under my own name one last time, and took a late bus out of Portland towards Salem, and further. That night, I didn't just leave home. That night, I became vapor. Evergreen Lodge wasn't much to look at. Faded green sign, parking lot full of dented pickups and tired sedans. The kind of place you end up, not the kind you choose. I went to the front desk, handed over cash, and gave a name that wasn't mine. The keycard stuck twice before the door opened. Inside, the room smelled like old carpet and someone else's cigarettes. The lamp by the bed threw this sickly yellow light over everything. The AC unit rattled in the window like it was dying but too stubborn to quit. Back home, I'd spent years fixing little things, tightening screws, patching paint, upgrading lights, making it nice for us, for her. Here, nothing was mine, and for the first time, that felt like a kind of freedom. I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the traffic hiss by on the highway, feeling the emptiness stretch out around me. No one knew where I was. Not my sister, not my boss, definitely not Lydia. I opened the burner phone, the one with no contacts, no history. This was my new window to the old world. A ghost, in a cheap motel, watching his former life from a brand new screen. I didn't hear from her at all that first night. No missed calls on the burner, no frantic emails, nothing. Part of me wondered if she even noticed I hadn't walked through the door on schedule, or if Marcus had kept her busy enough. 12 hours of silence. Then, at 9:41 a.m., the dam cracked. First a call, then another. Then the text started. "LOL, where are you? This isn't funny. You better not be at the bar this early." Jokes, emojis, little pretend laughs typed out like she was still in control of the scene. When I didn't answer, the tone shifted. "Okay, seriously, where are you? You're scaring me now. Please call me, just say something." I lay on that stiff motel bed, phone in my hand, watching her spin. I didn't feel what I thought I would. No satisfaction, no deep ache. Just this quiet, distant interest, like reading messages about two strangers. The more I read, the clearer it got. She wasn't afraid I was hurt. She was afraid she'd lost control of the story. By day 2, I wanted information, not drama. I took the bus to a public library, sat down at one of those sticky old computers, and logged into a dummy email I hadn't touched in years. The one tied to a rideshare account Lydia never knew I still had access to. Trip history loaded, and there it was. New ride, booked that evening. Pickup, our house. Drop off, Alderwood Inn, downtown Portland. Time, 10:27 p.m. So while her texts were dripping panic, her calendar hadn't changed. She wasn't at home falling apart. She had a hotel to get to. That night, I drove back into Portland and pulled into the parking garage across from Alderwood. 3rd level, far corner. Good view of the front doors. I killed the engine and waited. Breath fogging the inside of the windshield, hands wrapped around the steering wheel like it was the only solid thing in my life. 10:15, 10:20, 10:28. Then I saw her. Same coat, same heels, Same confident walk. She wasn't mourning, she was on schedule. From 3 floors up, it felt like watching a movie I never agreed to be in. Lydia came into view under the awning, beige coat pulled tight, ponytail neat, heels hitting the pavement like she owned it. She didn't look around, didn't hesitate, just walked straight through the sliding doors like this was a regular stop on her route home. I watched every detail. How she adjusted her coat at the front desk, how she leaned in and smiled at the clerk, how relaxed she looked, almost relieved. 10, maybe 12 minutes later, Marcus showed up. Charcoal suit, athletic build, that casual swagger of a man who thinks he's the main character. He tapped his phone, got his key card, and as he turned, Lydia came back into the lobby. They didn't sneak. They didn't glance over their shoulders. She stepped right up to him and kissed him. Not some quick, guilty peck. A slow, practiced kiss. The kind you only get after a lot of practice. I didn't punch the steering wheel, didn't storm down there, didn't scream his name. I just raised my phone and took the pictures. In that moment, I stopped being the devastated husband in a cheating story. I was building a timeline. Here's the part Lydia never knew. A couple years back, after a break-in on our street, I upgraded our home security. New cameras, better coverage, cleaner wiring. While I was at it, I added a little extra, a backup server tucked away on a small network drive, off the main system. Nothing flashy, just a quiet set of eyes that never stopped recording. She thought the cameras were just for show, a blinking red light to make us feel safer. Back at the motel, I opened my laptop and logged in. There it was. Timeline laid out in motion alerts and video clips from the days I'd been out of town or working late. Front door, living room, kitchen. One clip, Lydia opening the door, letting Marcus in like he belonged there. Another, 2 glasses of wine on the coffee table I'd built in the garage on my weekends. Them on the couch, heads thrown back, laughing at something she once called our thing, a joke that used to be just between us. I watched my house hold them the way it was supposed to hold us. And it hit me hard and clean. I wasn't just betrayed, I was replaced. In my own home. You'd think getting caught would slow someone down. With Lydia, it just made her more creative. From the motel, I watched the ripples start. I still had access to our shared phone plan, to a couple old logins she'd forgotten about. That's how I saw the messages between her and my sister Claire. Has Nolan ever had issues with depression? He's been so distant lately. Not himself. I'm really worried. Distant. Not himself. Worried wife. She was laying down the script. Then there were the emails to my boss. I didn't see the full threads, but I saw enough subject lines. Quick concern about Nolan. He's been under a lot of stress. She was smart. I'll give her that. If I stayed gone long enough and the truth ever leaked out, she wanted a head start. In her version, I was the unstable one, the man who snapped, the husband who abandoned his poor, blindsided wife, not the guy who found hotel receipts and security footage. Sitting on that scratchy motel bed, burner phone in hand, it clicked hard and clean. I wasn't going to let her write the ending. A couple days later, I was killing time at a train station 2 towns over, nursing a bad cup of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes before. My duffel was at my feet, my back against a pillar, and my burner phone was full of screenshots, texts, emails, still frames from my own living room. I was scrolling through them like case notes when she sat down next to me. Red leather jacket, blue streak in her hair, headphones hanging around her neck like jewelry. She glanced at my screen, then at my face. "You spying on someone?" she asked. Not accusing, more like she already knew the answer. I could have lied. Instead, I said, "More like documenting a betrayal." She smirked. "You one of those Reddit guys?" I huffed out a laugh. Something like that. We sat in silence for a minute. Trains came and went. People dragged luggage to lives I'd never see. She stood up to leave, then paused and looked back at me. "If you're gathering receipts," she said, "don't just survive it. Own it." Then she walked away. That line stuck like a nail under my rib. In that moment, I stopped being just the guy who got cheated on. I started becoming the one building the case. Riley's words wouldn't leave me alone. Back at the motel, I opened my laptop and decided if this was going to be a story, it wasn't going to be hers. I started gathering everything. The 6-second voicemail, screenshots of the texts, hotel confirmations, the photos from Alderwood, security camera stills from my own living room. I dumped them into a private cloud folder and named it like a case file, not a heartbreak. Dates in the titles, locations in the notes. I lined it all up in order, from the first lie I could prove to the last kiss I watched through glass. When you see it like that, laid out piece by piece, it stops feeling like maybe I'm overreacting and starts looking like what it is, a pattern. Somewhere in the middle of labeling timestamps, something shifted in my head. I wasn't just the guy everything happened to anymore. I was the one keeping the record, the witness, the archivist. I caught myself thinking, when this finally lands, who needs to see it first? Her mother, her boss? I wasn't just the victim anymore. I was the narrator. A few days later, I drove back into Portland and parked near one of Lydia's favorite brunch spots. Not because I missed the food. Because I was curious. I sat in a corner of a small coffee shop across the street, nursing a black coffee and watching the patio through the window. That's when I saw her. Lydia. And across from her, my mother-in-law, Judith. Pearls, pressed blazer, the kind of woman who treats gossip like a sin but judgment like a hobby. They talked for a while. Lydia kept her head down, napkin twisted in her hands. Then Judith reached across the table and touched her daughter's wrist, said something I couldn't hear. Lydia broke. This wasn't pretty crying. This was shoulders shaking, face crumpled, the kind of sobs that make strangers look away out of politeness. Tears dripped onto the table. Judith slid a napkin over, lips tight, eyes scanning Lydia's face like she was trying to decide what to believe. I sat there on my side of the glass, stirring a coffee that didn't need stirring, and wondered, what story was she selling? That I'd had a breakdown? That I'd snapped? That she had no idea why I was unstable? I watched her cry and felt nothing. No guilt, no sympathy, just curiosity. Some truths don't need a speech. They just need to be seen. I went to a drugstore and bought the cheapest flash drive they had. No fancy brand, no huge storage, just enough. Paid in cash, walked out, and found a corner table at a diner with weak coffee and decent Wi-Fi. 90 seconds. That's all I gave her. It opened with the voicemail. Her voice, raw and careless. I don't love him. I haven't for years. I honestly hate him. Cut straight to the footage of her opening our front door for Marcus. The way she smiled. The way she poured his wine in the glasses we got as a wedding gift. The two of them laughing on the couch I built with my own hands. Then the final frame, that hotel entrance. Her in the beige coat, him in the gray suit. Time, date, location, freeze, fade to black. Title on the file. Until you're honest with yourself. No threats, no captions. No, we need to talk. I slid the flash drive into a plain envelope, no return address, dropped it in a mailbox, and walked away. I didn't need to see her reaction. It was enough to know she'd finally have to look herself in the eye. 2 days after I mailed the drive, her online life went dark. Lydia's Instagram, gone. The carefully curated happy wife, busy boss, cute dog, grid just disappeared. No goodbye post, no explanation, just wiped. Then she called in sick to work. 2 days, then 3. That's when the text started hitting the burner, from her real number. Did someone send you something? Nolan, please, I'm sorry, I can explain. Whatever you saw, it's not what you think. Please don't make this worse than it already is. I read each line slowly. Before, her words were all about control, checking where I was, shaping how people saw us, making sure the story stayed in her hands. Now it was a different language. Sorry. Explain. Please. Don't. This wasn't a woman trying to fix her marriage. This was a woman trying to get ahead of a bomb she finally knew was ticking. Sitting on that motel bed, phone buzzing in my hand, it hit me clear. She wasn't fighting for us. She was fighting for her image, for the version of herself she'd sold to everyone else. And the truth was already moving faster than she was. There's a point where replaying everything in your own head stops helping. You need another pair of eyes, someone who knew you before all this. For me, that was Aaron Foster, college friend, old roommate. We hadn't talked in years, but he was the one guy who'd always told me the truth, even when it stung. I messaged him. Got something heavy, Need you to look at it. No jokes. We got on a call. I walked him through the whole thing. The voicemail, the hotel, the cameras, the texts. Then I sent a small batch of screenshots, just enough for him to see the shape of it. He went quiet for a moment, then said, "Man, you've always been the guy people walk over. I think it's about time you stop lying down." He didn't rant about Lydia. He didn't fuel the drama. He just stood with me. Aaron agreed to help. First move was subtle. He reached out to her, just once. His message read, "I hope the truth comes out soon." That was it. No details, no accusation. But for someone like Lydia, who lives and dies by the version of events she controls, 6 simple words like, "the truth comes out soon," are enough to shake the floorboards. I didn't need to blow up her life in one big public blast. All I had to do was let the truth leak into the cracks. It started with her cousin in Portland. I had sent him one carefully chosen clip. Nothing graphic, just enough. A few days later, he texted Lydia, "If you ever need to be honest about everything, I'm here." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Have you heard from Nolan?" Honest. About everything. Then her hairstylist, the one who was with her on a so-called girls' night, sent a short message after I'd had a quiet word. Funny how some nights weren't what you said they were. That is all I'll say. No shouting, no spelled-out accusation, just a line that says, "I know." An anonymous email landed too. "You know he deserved better, right?" Nobody mentioned cheating outright. Nobody listed dates or named Marcus. But people around her were suddenly speaking in hints. Truth, honest, better. The language shifts first. That is what eats at someone like Lydia. Not knowing who has seen what, not knowing which lie failed, not knowing where to patch. Her world didn't explode from the outside. It started collapsing from the inside because she could not find the leak to seal. There's a big difference between gossip and evidence. I decided it was time the right people saw the difference. I went to a print shop with a thumb drive and a quiet plan. Screenshots of the text between Lydia and Marcus. The photo of them kissing in the hotel lobby. A still of him stepping into my house. Another of them on the couch I built, faces close, glasses of wine in their hands. I printed everything in color, clear as day. No captions, no circles, just the facts. Then I bought a stack of plain manila envelopes. One addressed to Lydia, one to her mother, Judith, one to her boss at the marketing firm, one to the couple across the street who hosted those wine nights, one to her beloved yoga studio, the place she went to clear her head. No letters, no explanations, just the photos inside. I dropped them in different mailboxes around town and waited, not for fireworks or public showdowns, but for that strange silence that hits when people see something they cannot unsee. A day later, my sister Claire texted me, "Whatever you're doing, it's working." And I knew the envelopes had landed. I wanted to see one thing with my own eyes. What she did when the truth came all the way to her front door. Aaron had a small drone he used for hiking videos. I borrowed it, drove back near the old neighborhood, and parked a couple of streets over. From there, I lifted the drone above our block and hovered over the house I used to call home. Late afternoon, Lydia's car pulled in. She got out fast, shoulders tight, bag slung over her arm. She walked up the path, the same path I'd shoveled in winter, and stopped at the front door. There it was on the doormat. That last manila envelope, waiting like a small, quiet verdict. She froze. Didn't pick it up. Didn't kick it away. She just stared at it for a long time, then slowly sank down onto the steps, elbows on her knees, hands covering her face. Her whole body shook like someone had pulled the plug on whatever was holding her together. I watched all of this on the little screen in my hands. No sound, no theatrics, just a woman finally weighed down by what she had done. And for the first time, I felt no guilt at all. This wasn't cruelty. This was balance. After the envelopes and the drone, it went quiet for a bit. Not peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a held breath. Then one morning, a new email popped up on the burner. No name, no profile picture. Just an address I didn't recognize, but the wording told me everything. Subject line, "Let's talk." No cameras, no games. The body of the email was short. "You win. You've ruined me. I hope that makes you feel powerful." No hello, no Nolan, no apology, just a blame dressed up as surrender. At the bottom she added, I'd like to meet, neutral ground, 1 hour, just you and me, St. John's Coffee House, tomorrow at 4. Neutral ground. She picked the place she used to meet Marcus. Of course she did. Same stage, new script. I sat there, reading it over and over, feeling the old urge rise up, the need to hear her explain, to listen to her version, to see if somehow I had missed something. Then another thought cut through it. I wasn't going there for answers. I was going there to put a period at the end of this sentence, so I wrote back one word, okay. I got to St. John's Coffee House 20 minutes early. It was the kind of place Lydia loved. Exposed brick, local art on the walls, soft music humming under the chatter. I chose a small table by the window where the light fell straight across the chairs. If we were going to do this, I wanted to see every inch of her face. I ordered a black coffee and let it sit there cooling. At exactly 4 o'clock, she walked in, hair pulled back, no makeup, no jewelry. The look said, I am exhausted. I am broken. I am the wounded one here. She saw me, hesitated for half a second, then came over. No hug, no reaching for my hand. She sat down across from me like we were two people about to sign paperwork. Hi, she said. Hi, I answered. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Not husband and wife, not partners, just two people with completely different versions of the same story. The air between us felt less like marriage and more like a courtroom. And sitting there watching her fold and unfold her hands, it hit me. We weren't a couple anymore. We were two sides of a case. She was the first to break the silence. You don't know the full story, Lydia said, voice low, eyes wet but steady. Things weren't as perfect as you think. I let that sit for a second, then shook my head. I'm not here for your version, I said. I've seen enough. Her jaw tightened. You only saw what someone wanted you to see. I was lonely, Nolan. You were distant. You shut down. There it was, the pivot. I made mistakes, she added, softening her tone. I am not saying I'm innocent, but... You didn't make mistakes, I cut in. You made choices, over and over. Hotel bookings aren't typos. Bringing him into my house wasn't a slip. Her eyes flashed. The tears dried up quick. You keep pushing this. It is not just me who gets hurt, she said. If this goes public, it will hit my job, my family. Do you really want to blow up lives like that? You really want to be that guy? I leaned forward. You humiliated me in private, I said calmly. All I did was return the courtesy. For the first time since this whole mess started, I watched her lose the script. The story was no longer in her hands. It was in mine. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a plain envelope. Lydia's eyes flicked to it, then back to my face. What is that? She asked. Simple, I said. I slid the envelope across the table. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. One line, typed in black. I lied. I betrayed. I manipulated people to make Nolan disappear so I could play the victim. She read it once, twice. Her lips curled. You're insane, she whispered, a bitter little laugh slipping out. You actually expect me to sign this? To hand you a confession so you can wave it around? No, I said. I don't. She blinked, thrown off. Then what is this? This, I answered, holding her gaze, is the first time in our entire marriage I've ever asked you to say out loud what you really did. Her fingers pinched the edges of the paper, but she didn't pull it closer. She pushed it back toward me like it was contaminated. I am not touching that, she said. I picked it up, folded it once, slid it back into the envelope. Turned out, I did not need her signature. The fact that I could finally demand the truth face to face without shrinking was already more freeing than any ink on that page. I took the envelope back from her and slid the page out one more time. The words stared up at both of us. I lied. I betrayed. I manipulated people to make Nolan disappear so I could play the victim. She would not even touch it. That told me everything I needed to know. For a second, the old version of me showed up in my head, the one who would have folded, tried to soften it, said, "We can work this out." I let that guy die right there at that table. I held the page between my hands, tore it cleanly down the middle, then tore it again. 4 small pieces of something that never got the chance to become official. I dropped them into my coffee, watched the paper darken and sink. "Consider this mercy," I said. She stared at me, eyes wide, breathing hard, hands shaking on the edge of the table. Whether it was rage or fear or both, I did not care. I stood up, pushed my chair back, and walked out without looking over my shoulder. For the first time in my life, her tears had absolutely no power over me. After that meeting, there was only one part of her life still standing untouched: work. Lydia loved that job. The title, the emails, the respect, the image of being the sharp, put-together marketing manager mentoring the team while secretly sleeping with one of the men under her on the org chart. So I opened my laptop and did what any decent technician does with a broken system. I laid out the failure points. I compiled a clean PDF. Dates of hotel stays that lined up with late nights at the office. Screenshots of flirty messages sent during work hours. Calendar overlaps showing her one-on-ones with Marcus that somehow always ended near Alderwood Inn. No commentary, no insults. Just a document titled, "Internal Character Concerns." From a fresh anonymous email, I sent it straight to HR. Subject line, "Internal character concerns regarding Lydia Reeves and subordinate staff." That was all. Affair with a subordinate. Undisclosed conflict. Use of company time and resources to cover it. You do not need to add drama to that. Policy will handle it for you. The next day, word reached me through Claire. Lydia had been placed on administrative leave. Her reputation was finally catching up to her. The text from an unknown number came in late at night. "She said you were separated. I didn't know you existed. I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time, the motel room light buzzing overhead, the cheap blanket rough under my hand. So that was the story. In her version, I was not just gone. I had never really been there. For a second, I pictured Marcus the way I had seen him at the hotel, confident, relaxed, the man who thought he was walking into something exciting, not into the middle of a slow-motion car crash. I typed back one line. "She said the same about you." No insult, no lecture, just the truth. The message showed as delivered. Then read. No reply. And in that silence, something settled. It hit me that in Lydia's world, both of us had been supporting characters. 2 men standing on opposite sides of a story we did not write. Each told the other was basically a ghost. We were never rivals. We were mirrored fools. The final piece of the fallout reached me in the form of a photo. A buddy of mine worked front desk security at Lydia's company. He knew enough of the story to recognize her when everything finally came to a head. He texted me the picture without commentary. There she was in the lobby, eyes red, mascara streaked, security walking a few steps behind her as she clutched a cardboard box of her things to her chest. The power walk was gone. The polished manager was gone. Just a woman walking out of a building she used to own with her presence. He told me later that Marcus was called down about an hour after her. Different exit, same box, same look of someone who had bet on the wrong story. I sat on the edge of the motel bed and looked at that photo for a while, waiting for a rush of satisfaction that never came. What I felt instead was simple. This is what happens when reality finally catches up. In that moment, I knew I was done interfering in her life. The social part of the revenge was over. You can tell a lot about how a story spreads by looking at the comments. I did not post anything. I did not tag her, did not write a long caption about betrayal. I just let a few people see what they needed to see, and then the whispers took over. Her old happy couple photos started to change. Same staged smiles, same matching outfits, but different words underneath. Karma wears heels too, you know. Wild how pictures don't show what you put him through. Glad to see you are still breathing after everything you did to him. Nothing outright vicious, just sharp, precise little cuts. One by one, the photos disappeared. The anniversary posts, the date nights, the "my man, my rock" captions. Then one day, the whole account was gone. Search her name, nothing, like it had never existed. Sitting there, looking at the blank where her profile used to be, I caught myself thinking, I disappeared by choice. She was being erased by consequence. Two kinds of vanishing. One was an exit, the other was a cleanup. Time did what time always does. It moved, with or without my permission. 3 months passed from the day Lydia was escorted out of that office. 2 months since her family stopped calling mine, their concerned messages drying up as the pieces quietly rearranged themselves in their heads. 1 month since I checked any corner of the old life. No social media, no gossip, no updates. Somewhere in the middle of all that, I left Portland. I rented a small place in Newport, Oregon, a worn little town by the water where nobody knew my last name and nobody cared who I used to be married to. By day, I fixed air conditioners and heaters in beach houses and bait shops. Work was simple. Something broken, something repaired. At night, I picked up shifts pouring drinks at a bar near the pier, listening to other people's problems instead of drowning in my own. One evening, I was walking home, salt in the air, hands tired, when it hit me. I had gone an entire day without thinking about Lydia. No replay, no what-ifs. For the first time, my life was not orbiting around the wreckage. It was just my life. There is a small bookstore by the Newport Pier I started ducking into on slow afternoons. Old wood floors, shelves too close together, the air always a little cool from the door opening and closing. That is where I met Tessa. She worked behind the counter most days, hair in a loose knot, sweater sleeves pushed up, always smelling faintly like cinnamon and coffee. She talked in pictures more than straight lines. If you asked her how she was, she would say something like, "Today feels like low tide, but in a good way." We never talked about Lydia. She never asked, and I never volunteered. Instead, we talked about music that still hurts to listen to, about the people we have lost, about why some folks would rather lie than sit in a hard truth. Her voice had no edge in it, no bitterness, just a curious, steady tone, like she was turning a stone over in her hand, not throwing it. Sitting on a stool by the counter, listening to her, I did not feel like the guy whose wife cheated. I felt like a man having a conversation. It was not a love story. It was a sign I was still capable of connection. Healing, it turns out, looks a lot less dramatic than the movies. I started with small things. I learned how to actually cook instead of living on takeout and microwave dinners. Burned a few pans, watched a few videos, eventually got decent at a skillet and a sheet pan. There was something grounding about feeding myself on purpose. I read books without hiding them behind my phone, sat in a chair by the window and turned pages slowly, not scrolling, not distracting myself from my own thoughts. Nights got quieter too. I stopped sleeping with the phone next to my face, waiting for some message that would knock the wind out of me. No more checking who had posted what. Some nights I turned it off completely and let the silence sit. I caught myself apologizing less, not saying sorry because I needed an extra second to answer, or because I felt too tired to go out. I let myself be a slow-talking, tired man who had been through hell and was still here. Somewhere in that routine it hit me. What I had gotten back was not my pride. It was myself, not Lydia's husband, just Nolan. One evening, the sky over Newport went that dull gray blue it gets right before dark, and I found myself walking the beach without really planning to. Waves came in, pulled back, came in again. Same motion, over and over. The kind of rhythm that makes you realize how small your life actually is. I reached into my jacket and felt something I had almost forgotten about. My real phone. The one I had shut off the night I disappeared. The one with all the ghosts still inside. I stood there for a minute, then held down the power button. The screen lit up, brighter than I remembered. Notifications flooded in like a backed-up pipe finally clearing. Voicemails, text messages, missed calls. Most of them were from one name. I did not open a single one. Instead, I went to my contacts and scrolled. Past work numbers, old friends, family, down to the letter L. There she was. Lydia. My thumb hovered over her name, the wind pushing at my back, the ocean breathing in and out beside me. One last piece of the old life, sitting under my fingertip. I looked at her name on the screen and, for a second, the whole story played in one quick flash behind my eyes. The 6-second voicemail, the Thai food and the earrings, the hotel, the cameras, the envelopes, the coffee shop. But it was like flipping through a book I had already finished. I knew every page. There was nothing new left to find in it. I did not give myself a speech. I did not rehearse some line for closure. I simply pressed edit, tapped her name, and hit delete contact. No dramatic music, no lightning bolt. The world did not shift. What did happen was smaller and somehow bigger. Something in my chest loosened. A knot I had been carrying for years finally let go a little. I let my arm drop to my side, put the phone back in my pocket, and looked out at the water. Waves still came in, still pulled back, but I did not feel like I was drowning anymore. I was standing there alone, and for the first time I was not lonely. I did not win. She did not lose. I just stopped bleeding. So here is where it all lands. I did not die. I did not end up in handcuffs. I did not burn her life to the ground and walk away laughing like in some movie. I lost a marriage, yes, but somewhere between that 6-second voicemail and this moment on the beach, I found something I did not know I had misplaced. My own voice. Disappearing was not weakness. It was not running away from a fight. It was me finally unplugging from a person who fed on my silence and my effort and my paychecks and still found a way to say she honestly hated me. If you are a man listening to this and you feel like a ghost in your own house, hear me. You are not just a paycheck. You are not a doormat. You are allowed to get up and walk out of the fire that is burning you down. If any part of this story hit home, tell me. Drop a comment. Share your version. Subscribe if you want to hear more truths no one says out loud. Because in the end, I did not get revenge. I got something better. I got myself back.